I am Tobias Rataj. I'm from the Czech Republic, from the company called UiPath. UiPath is a startup company in the field of the robotics process automation, and I will explain a little bit about what it is, just in case you didn't know what that was. The reason I'm from the Czech Republic is just because I got to know some of the people at UiPath, and then we have decided that I can join them about 6 months ago in the position of VP Sales for EMEA. Otherwise, there is no particular reason why this is. I am from this country for this company. The company has roots in Romania, but nowadays we have over 160 people working around the globe. We have offices in Bucharest, in London, in US, in Tokyo, in Singapore, in India, and we have just today opened an office in Australia. So I think we have now a pretty good global presence. We have over 250 customers globally, just to give you some idea where we are. We have pretty much doubled the headcount in the company since the time I have joined. So today I would like to speak, to give you an idea about what do we mean by this robotics and what does that mean, and why this is hopefully relevant for you in your areas of business. And then I will talk about the value that this can provide, and on a high level, what does it take to actually be successful in achieving the benefits of the RPA. And I think we have about 20-25 minutes for that. So what is RPA first? I'm sure that many of you know that, but I would like to repeat this. The robotic automation aims to use the computer to manipulate the application software, ERP, like SAP or CRM, help desk, claim applications, service desk applications, ticketing applications, in the same way like a human would interact with that application. So what does that mean? That the robot is actually a piece of software that is running on a machine, and it's able to access the user interface of the applications, find the field on that screen, write or read from that field. It can find the navigation buttons or the sliders or the drop-down boxes and manipulate that user interface in the same way like a user does. So it will mimic the human activity of that with that application. How is that possible? This is enabled by some kind of a computer vision technology which is embedded into the robot, which has been many years of the development. So even though we are a startup company, this is something that we have been working on since 2005. And I'd say only in the last 3-4 years we have applied this technology to the field of this robotics process automation. So there is a core engine, core piece of software that is allowing the software to actually understand what is on the screen, the same way like the human can understand what is on the screen. This is a very important aspect. That robot obviously cannot do everything the human is doing, right? The robot can do only what it's being told to do. So there is an instruction set which is telling the robot what it has to do. And it needs to be based on some of the business rules. But many of the activities that we do today in any part of the business, most of them are actually based on certain rules. They are not based just on a human judgment. They are business rules. You have business procedures, you have service procedures. So these are the rules that the robot can also follow and observe. As well as the robot needs to have some structured data. So it cannot work just with a plain text. It needs to understand what the individual elements of that text actually mean. So is it a name? Is it an address? Is it a date? Is it an amount to be paid? Or what is it? So he needs to have some metadata about this data that it's working with. But just to give you an idea, I will show you a short Okay, before going to the demo. So there is what it can actually do, just to give you some more tangible features. Something that one of our customers has done was automation in the service order management area, where we can see on the high level the process here, where the order is created by the human and it's put into the robotic queue. The robots are doing some order validation and enrichment of the data. Then maybe the agent is reviewing if everything is okay, and then is going into the order creation and kind of order fulfillment systems, where the robot is entering that information into any system that needs to be updated with that information about the order. And if there is any exception, then it goes to the human to process the exception, and otherwise the process ends. This is a conceptually pretty much any handling that you can imagine with a service request area, with a customer request area. And you can also imagine that later on, with enough confidence in this automation, this manual check about the agent review of the robot activity in the middle can be removed as well, and then the process could be fully automated from the moment the order or request is entering the queue. You can see some of the benefits that the customer has obtained. I want to really focus your attention to the fact that the handling time is actually reduced, and obviously with this process automation, also the error rate must have gone down, and I think the consistency of the execution has been improved as well, which is something which is not maybe visible, and it's not the obvious area at the first sight. So it's not only about the cost reduction, and I will speak about that later as well. So here I would like to show you about a 2-minute video which actually explains and shows on some example what the robot can do. You have to keep in mind that this is a little bit artificial example. It's about an employee and an expense claim scenario, which to an extent is artificial, but it's designed to demonstrate how the robot can interact with the applications and how it can work. But you can, I think in your imagination, you can substitute the employee for a customer and the expense claim for a request that is being processed. And I think you will start to relate to maybe some area that you are familiar with. So can we get the sound?
Robots can work with multiple applications simultaneously. In the next example, our robot will work with 7 applications at once: Excel, Word, PDF, email, SAP, terminals, and Salesforce. The Excel file contains the name, email, SAP number, and an individual code for each person. The robot will first read this data, then open the terminal, input each person's code, and get all the data from the terminal. The emails from the CSV will be input into Salesforce to find every employee, and then the expense data from the terminal will be added into the expense row. After this, the robot will create a Word document from a template with a status report for each person. The Word file will then be converted to PDF and sent as an email attachment. Finally, the robot will find the employee's position in SAP, and with all of the above data, will populate the Excel file used in the beginning. Now, let's start the robot and explain the process in more detail. The robot will start by opening the terminal, Salesforce, and SAP, and by logging into all 3 systems, preparing all the applications it will work with. It will browse the pages of the terminal and find the ID of the first employee. Then identify the same person in Salesforce based on their email address. The expenses are then added in Expense IT, the Word template filled in, converted to PDF, and sent as an email attachment. The robot then finds the position of the person in SAP, then moves on to the second person, looking for the ID in the terminal. After collecting the data, the robot sees that Salesforce does not display an account for Joan, so it creates one. After doing this, it fills the expenses on Joan's account, creates the Word document, converts it to PDF, and sends it as an email attachment. Then the robot moves on to the third person, and so on. Fast forwarding, we can see that all the data is completed in the Excel file for each person, and the emails for each person are sent with a PDF attachment.
Okay, so that concludes the illustrative demo. I hope it gave you the idea. One of the things which is interesting, I think that as you can see, the robot really does not care about how the user interface is designed. So compared to what we have seen in the previous presentation, the robot actually doesn't care, but I think it would struggle with the buttons in the elevator as well. Maybe that would, that would be also maybe some issue. But in general, it doesn't care, you know, if this is kind of a nicely designed application. Actually, in fact, the robot, the thing that it likes the most is the green terminal application that we have seen there as an example. But it can work with any web application, with normal client-server applications, pretty much anything you can imagine. So why this is interesting, and why this is interesting now for many businesses? There is as you can see, one of the key aspects of this is that this is completely non-invasive to the application set. So there is no need for coding or modifying the existing applications. You need to do certain development on the robot side, but there is no need to modify the existing applications. And moreover, there is no need to actually understand how internally those applications are working. All you need to know is how to use those applications. Okay, so you don't need to rely on any knowledge that somebody else in the organization have about how the applications have been designed and how do they work internally. This is one of the things that people actually like about this, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have to work with IT, but it does mean that you are not dependent on the knowledge of other people about these applications. This is it is much faster and much cheaper than to do a traditional system integration. It is a way to automate things which are not perfect. So you don't need to do a business process automation, optimization or transformation or engineering. You can automate it as it is because it is so relatively cheap and fast. So there is no need to kind of optimize the process before automating. And you can scale it up very fast. So once you have developed the automation, you can deploy it on any number of robots. And there is no need to train additional employee in that new skill. And anytime there is some change that you need to do, you just make the change to that workflow and you redeploy it to your production. And this is automatically picked by all these robots. So on the other hand, I think there is a growing number of, I would say, implementation experience and implementation partners, which is also an important part of the ecosystem, why this is becoming so interesting for the companies around the world, and specifically in Nordics and specifically in Finland, I have to say. We see a lot of demand, a lot of requests coming from your country. And many companies are also deciding to make the robotics and kind of integral component of their digital transformation journeys, of their programs about becoming digital companies. So this is also being recognized as one of the key drivers in the adoption speed of the RPA. So this is why this could be interesting and why this is important now. So what are the typical problems that the RPA is solving? It is solving the problems that are associated with the manual processes that we find typically in many places, especially kind of a back office type of environments in any business. So it's about the cost, about the processes that are manual, time consuming. There could be a lot of errors. They could be boring for many people. Many people don't want to do them. The scalability is an issue, and also having a full audit trail may not be so easy today. But these metrics, in my opinion, are a little bit internally oriented. I think the question is essentially, what do these aspects of the today's manual processing mean from a customer experience point of view? And to me, customer experience is actually the difference, the delta between the customer expectations and the customer service that has been delivered. And today we have problems from both sides of both elements of these equations, because the customer experience, the customer expectations are not shaped by you. They are shaped by other digital players in the industry. They are shaped by the digital companies which are digital from their onset. So they are shaped by these Ubers, Airbnbs, and companies like that, or your local counterparts in Finland. So this is where the customer expectation about the digital experience is coming from. And this is raising the bar. This is raising the bar today. And what is that expectation? That expectation means that you have an instant answer and instantaneous fulfillment, right? And then you have a very high level, or very good service level in the response time and in the service provisioning. And the service provisioning, the service delivery is another component of the problem, because even if you are working in the service management business unit, you don't have a full control of that service delivery, because that's depending on the provisioning, on fulfillment of that service elsewhere in the organization. And today, even the companies have decided to kind of, okay, they would like to mimic Ubers and Airbnbs. They set up the digital front end, the digital channels, being it a web page or mobile application. But it's expensive and hard to integrate it to the fulfillment and provisioning systems, right? So today, often what we see that there is a back office or manual interface between that request that is obtained from the digital channel and that request going to be provisioned into the systems. So this is one area where the robotics can actually help to make a cost-effective, quick integration of this, let's say, service provisioning or service or request fulfillment from the customer, and to improve the customer experience in this way. So what are the benefits areas? I think we have already kind of indicated which are they. There are some of them which are the obvious one, which is the productivity one. We can remove, by automating this labor activity, we can remove the repetitive labor from the equation. It is the time to value. It is really fast to implement. As you can see, that kind of a medium complex process is something that can be automated within a matter of 1 to 2 weeks. It is not the first one that you will automate, right? It is when you have the capability established, this will be the incremental one. But once you have this robotic capability in place, add additional automation, it's really quick and fast. But there are some of the benefits which maybe are a little bit less obvious. It is what I indicated, the consistency. The fact that the robots do not make mistakes, right? They don't make typing mistakes, stuff like that. You have a full audit trail of what the robot has been doing. And you have the ability to understand what is actually the service level that you can commit to, because you will have all the data about the robot performance. And this comes to the last area that I put there, which is you get the data and insights, or ability to have insights that you may not have today. You have to understand that the robot can be set up in a way to record anything that it's doing. So and to all the data that he's been working with, and all the decision points that it has been performing, and also to record all the transactions that perhaps failed. But today, if you want to do some analysis, usually you will have the transactions that were successful, but it's difficult to do any analysis on the things that were not successful, because they are not somehow in the system. They are somewhere and may not be easy to locate. The robot can actually record this. It records this reliably, completely, without any bias. So the information is actually true in a way. It is the true picture of the situation. So just to give you an example about what it can help you, for example, I think you often hear your people telling you, oh, the system is a little bit slow today. But it's very hard to prove how much slower it is than it was yesterday. If you think about it from the robotic log, it's very easy to demonstrate how much slower it is actually, and what is the trend. And then this can indicate that there are some underlying issues in the infrastructure of the applications that your people are working with, and therefore some corrective action can be taken on a timely basis. So this is just something that can be enabled, which is not so easy actually to do today. But all is not so easy, all is not so nice and dandy, as the English say. So what are the challenges with the robotics? The challenge is that I think it is not so difficult to understand what the robot can do and where you can get some benefit from it. It's actually not so difficult to do some proof of concept and to pilot it on a small group of processes. But what is not so easy is actually to scale it up to a high-performing robotic capability in the organization. And this is not a feature, I would say, of the robotics, but it's a feature of any large program. But you need to scale it up if you really want to get the scale of the benefits. Okay, so you need to be thinking of automating a lot of activities and with a relatively large volume of robots. So this is where the challenges are today, and sadly to be said, I mean, we as a vendor actually can provide only so much support in that. We can provide some technology that helps the scalability, but here it is really necessary, again, to either you have your internal capability for large program management and transformations, or you have a partner that can help you with that. So the successful journey in our experience actually is the one where people, as one says, think big. So you think essentially of, okay, what are all the areas that the automation can help you with? But then you start small. You start with the proof of concepts or proof of value with the pilot projects. You get the momentum in the organization. You develop the internal COE, the Center of Excellence for robotics, and you use these pilots to validate some of the assumptions about the operating model, and then you adjust the operating model based on the experience. And this also helps you. You need to plan for the early successes so that you can do the internal promotion about robotics and get a little bit of the excitement around the team, even the topic may be a little bit boring. I think this is apart from the technology choice, this is the key ingredients of success. From our point of view on the technology side, where we believe our differentiator is essentially two key facts. One is the fact that we have this leading technology in terms of this computer vision, the ability to understand what is on the screen, even if it's, for example, behind the Citrix. And the second aspect is that our technology is built as an open platform, which means that we can easily integrate any third-party solution into that, especially, for example, when it comes to the OCR or when it comes to any kind of a machine learning or cognitive algorithms that people are developing. Those are easily integrated onto our platform. This has been done before, and this is a continuing motion that we are seeing in the industry. So with that, I will finish my presentation, and if there are any questions in the remaining 3 minutes, I would be happy to take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobias. Any questions? We'll start from there. One moment.
I'm Maria Multanen from SKF. When you work with your customers in these projects, do you normally talk to HR people, and how do you see HR in this kind of a
You mean HR as being the subject to automation?
No,
Or-
no.
No,
I
HR as an
mean-
impact on
Yes,
the
impact
employees?
to HR, yes.
This is part of this, let's say, this change management effort, which needs to be really thought through. What does it mean from the human impact? But I think the fact is that, as I said, many people, I would say most of the people, are actually happy to be relieved of these repetitive and manual tasks. But there is obviously a certain group of the people that just like to do that. Yeah, this is a fact, and so this needs to be dealt with, and the successful RPA programs that we have seen have taken that into the account and involved obviously the HR into this aspect from the quite from the beginning actually. So this is yes.
Yes, hello. I actually had almost the same question, so I'm switching to a new one. Have you done any cooperation with schools? What is your view on whether the kids are already learning enough about this in schools, or whether the teachers are well enough educated to talk about this stuff in schools?
So the answer is no. It's a very short one. There has been no demand, and I say no need identified at the moment, to be honest, but I will think about that. Do you see a gap that there is some? I didn't feel there was a gap actually that type of. So what we are doing, we are providing one thing I didn't mention, but our aim is to reduce the adoption barrier as much as possible. So in terms of the licensing, we are not putting any limits, any minimum order sizes or anything like that. And we focus a lot on the enablement of our customers or partners in terms of the training for their developers and business analysts. And most of that training that we provide is actually free of charge on our online academy. So we want that this is easy to start with. But I want to warn you, to get to the benefit, you need to treat it as a serious program in your company.
Well, what you can do is that you can download the application
Yes,
free of charge.
we provide also a trial version which is
Yeah.
free of charge, so people can try and play with that and do their own automations. To also, if you need to do an internal demo, for example, and to convince other people in the organizations, this is what it can help you, and we can even provide you some remote support with that, for example.
I've done one. Okay. It's easy. Try it out. All right. Thank you very much, Tobias.
Thank you.